12 races down, 12 to go. Formula One arrives at the Hungaroring for race number 13, and with 6 different winners so far this season, the weekend is wide open. We're here in the searing heat of Budapest, and welcome to the weekend warm-up. Hello and a warm welcome down to the paddock. We are mercifully standing in the shade, but it has been boiling all day and it is set to be all weekend as well. Welcome to Lawrence Barretto, who joins me as ever, and the biggest welcome to Alice Powell, who we've had on the show many a time as a guest. We can hear you in commentary for F2 and F3, but you now join as part of the weird and dysfunctional F1 TV family.
Yeah, I've worked that out quite quickly now, and I've only been here for a few hours, but thanks for having me, guys.
Well, how are you doing?
That's good.
All good, all good. Looking forward to a very warm weekend.
Yeah, we are indeed. Thanks to your driving into the track as well, so you get me at all hours of the day.
Chief driver.
Yeah, chief driver.
How lucky.
As a driver, surely.
Yeah, why not? Just you and Ruth as a passenger, I'm not too sure about.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. Lawrence, here we are in beautiful Budapest. I love this city so much. And the race, they're really putting on a show, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a really nice vibe here. Normally it's the last race before the summer break, so we get that summer holidays kind of feeling. We've still got Spa to go, of course, but actually here their organisers have done a lot of improvements to the circuit, new grandstands, enhanced paddock building. They're really making an effort here to make us feel welcome. I always love coming here. I love Budapest as a city, but actually this track has, as we were seeing in that opener, delivered some cracking races over the years.
Yeah, amazing races. First-time pole positions, record-breaking pole positions, first-time wins for many a famous face in this paddock as well. And I think we could be set for a really thrilling weekend. As Alice just mentioned, Ruth Buscombe is also here, former strategist for Alfa Romeo and now part of our F1 TV team as well. We'll be throwing to her soon for her strategy hit of the weekend. And you were out earlier on the track as well, in the heat, it has to be said. Midday, let's send the newbie out into the hot sun.
Yeah, it was a warm welcome, that was for sure. That was for sure, but it was good. It's a great track and I really enjoy coming here. Like Lawrence said, great atmosphere. Budapest is amazing, but the fans, there was already fans in the grandstand already, so it's such a special atmosphere.
Really looking forward to seeing a driver-engineer track walk as well. I think that would be really
Yeah, we didn't bicker, so it was great.
Oh, damn, I thought you might have done at least. Anyway, let's take a look at what happened last time out at Silverstone. If you missed this one, where on earth were you? Here it is.
We are in the United Kingdom at the Silverstone circuit. Max Verstappen, championship leader, with his big rival Lando Norris alongside on the second row, and then on the front row, a Mercedes 1-2.
If you'd asked me to pick the grid for a competitive race, I'd have gone for something like this.
Lights out, away we go. Russell gets a good getaway. Hamilton tucks in behind. Watch out for Max Verstappen. Lando Norris now putting pressure on Hamilton.
Oh, the contact. I think that's just a bit unlucky, really, on the first lap.
Verstappen's got the outside lines. Verstappen, he gets in front of the McLaren.
Rain expected. When the rain comes, it's going to be a racing decision of when is the right conditions to take it.
Lando Norris is going on the attack, and he passes Max Verstappen.
Max is struggling.
Goes for the inside, and yeah, he's through as well. Look, slippery.
It's raining. It's really slippery.
Look how close Lando Norris is. He's done it. Lando Norris now takes the lead of the British Grand Prix. Oh, Piastri gets the place.
Well, Piastri's got a beautiful line on the exit.
He's done it.
Piastri has a chance. Verstappen's going to pit.
It's only Norris who's told to come in.
Mercedes double stack. Norris, he's made a pit stop on this lap and he's nearly catching his teammate again. His race has been butchered.
Great call for the Inter. This is our time. Retire the car, George.
He is out of the British Grand Prix.
Hamilton's in and Norris stays out. This is the crucial lap. Verstappen's in as well, same lap.
We need to box the softest header now. Any sleeves on.
Lando's so long in his box as well.
Hamilton comes out in front of Lando Norris.
Look at Max Verstappen now, looming large in the mirrors of Lando Norris.
Here comes Max Verstappen, he moves to the outside and he makes the move. He's up into second place. Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix.
Get in there, Lewis! You're the man!
Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot.
It means a lot to us all.
I love you, photo.
This is Formula One at its best.
Oh my goodness me, what an unbelievable race we had last time out. And that race radio at the end, the emotion, Lawrence, that poured from Lewis Hamilton, from his fans, from the Mercedes team, I think from all fans of motorsport as well, because what a story it is.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of love for a Lewis Hamilton victory as you saw him running across to the fans straight after getting out of the car. It meant so much to him. He genuinely didn't think he was going to win another race, and he obviously got it there on home soil at a circuit he's dominated at. it was a feel-good story, and I think that you'd struggle to find anyone in that paddock, maybe George Russell, obviously, because he wanted to win his home race, and Lando, of course, but I think genuinely they'd be happy for him and the kind of performance he delivered there.
Oh, absolutely, and Mercedes fans will be happy as well. 2 wins on the bounce now. Front row lockout, of course, in Silverstone as well. Alice, can we firmly believe and say now that Mercedes are back and a team that are going to be fighting at the front every weekend?
I mean, I think they'll fight at the front this weekend. They qualified on pole here last year with Lewis Hamilton, and this track should sort of suit them. But they've got those upgrades working, which is important because some other teams haven't. But it'll be down to many factors. Qualifying is really important here, so it's hard to overtake. But I certainly wouldn't write off Mercedes at all for this weekend.
No, not at all. I think we've probably got 4 teams coming into this weekend who all believe they can win. As I said before, this season very much proving to be wide open at the halfway mark, and we can't wait to see what's going to happen here on a slightly lower speed Hungaroring track. Let's take a look at the calendar though. The sprint races have just been announced for 2025. So this is where you can expect to see them. First up, China, then Miami, then we will be heading to Belgium, Austin, Brazil, and finally Qatar for our sprint races. We've been doing them a number of years now as well, haven't we? We've got a few coming up after the summer break here, Lawrence.
Yeah, we've got 3 coming up for the rest of the year. It feels like they've been part of the calendar for a long time now, and I think we've been treated to a lot of good ones over the years. Brazil is my favourite because we always seem to get a cracker. So yeah, I'm glad they're still part of the calendar.
Great stuff. I can't wait for this weekend, honestly. I'm absolutely buzzing. We've got Ruth on hand as well, who's going to be taking a look now each weekend at how the strategy is looking ahead of the weekend, but also looking back at what has been before and what that might be able to tell us about the upcoming race weekend. Ruth, over to you.
And welcome to your Budapest weekend warm-up race strategy briefing. Right now we have all 10 teams probably doing a pretty similar thing. They're all having a bit of a briefing, learning all about all the things that can happen across a race weekend, getting ready for it basically. So we thought we can't let the teams have all the fun, and we figured we should do one for you guys at home. So yeah, let's go. Race weekend, race strategy briefing. So here we are in glorious, warm, sunny Budapest. No British rain clouds to be there. Budapest, 70 laps, 4.31 kilometres, 14 turns, and it's 444-metre run from pole into braking in turn 1. Why is that important? Because it's the start. It's so key here because the overtaking difficulty is so high. Typically across a season, it can end up something like the 4th hardest overtake track of the year. So track position, both through a good qualifying, a good start, and a good strategy is absolutely key to getting a good result. So, looking at the track, we have turn 1, that's your big overtaking hotspot. Turn 4, that's a really technical, difficult corner, blind one. Moving through the track, you have to really nail absolutely every single turn here. It's only 70-second lap. Turn 11, turn 14, really aggressive curbs. We're going to see how the Red Bull handles those this weekend. But before we do anything about this year, we need to have a quick review of last year's race. So, last year's race, we had the same compounds, a C3, a C4 and a C5. And one of the things as a race strategist we do is we review what happened in previous years. So for everybody at home and everybody here watching, this was last year's. It was a 2-stop for most cars. And what you'll see here, different colours. Most teams started on that medium and the hard tyre, with only 4 cars overall starting on the soft compound tyre. Carlos made a great start, made about 5 positions off the start line on that red soft compound, but then it degraded quite a lot. So you can see after that first stint, no one bothered using those red softs for the rest of it, but we did get a mix of guys going for a medium, hard, medium, and a medium, hard, hard. But everybody pretty much 2-stop race with undercutting going on. Moving on to this year's race, we have the same compounds, C3, C4, C5. Those are the softest in the range. Last week at Silverstone, we had the hardest in the range. So last week's soft is this week's hard. So these compounds are a lot more aggressive. You are likely to see the medium and the hard tyres once again used in this year's race. The difference is last year was an 88, so everybody had loads of hards and loads of mediums by default because we had a different format. This weekend, the guys are going to have to decide what is going on ahead of the race weekend. because they have the standard race weekend allocation. Now, this soft tyre, don't worry, you'll see it a lot on Saturday. It is significantly faster in qualifying. It's significantly faster over one time lap, but requires so much management in the race because it's rather fragile, especially when the track is very warm, that it's not particularly fast over one timed lap. So, people have already mentioned quite how hot it is, and it's not just hot for humans, it's hot for cars, and it is hot for tyres. And all of those things make a big, important difference. We've had lots of failures in terms of cars that really are at the limit of their kind of, power unit levels. And the weather expected this weekend is going to be very hot. In fact, one of the hottest races we've had since 2017, with track temperatures at about 51 degrees on Friday, dropping a mere 2 degrees to 49 on Saturday, and then dropping a couple more degrees on the Sunday. And why is that important? That is so important because in qualifying, they're really going to have to focus on trying to get those tyres in the window. 20 cars on track, a 70-second lap. That's a lot of cars in a very small space of time, and everyone wants to drive rather slowly to make sure their C5 soft tyres are ready for opening the lap. On Sunday, it's going to be about tyre management. It's been a theme already this year, and it's going to be a really important theme of the day on Sunday. It could come down to who does a better job managing their tyres, or who does a better job setting up their car for the actual race stints itself. And there we have the race itself. But before the race, there's qualifying. And as we said here, qualifying is absolutely key. That is because overtaking is so difficult. And going into this race weekend, on the form book, there are 4 teams. Yeah, once again, we have 4 teams that could be the fastest car. Mercedes has been so strong in those low-speed corners. The Ferrari's new upgrade package, we know it's so good on a track layout like this, where we've got fewer high-speed straights as we had in Silverstone. McLaren have been a constant threat. And then, of course, you've got that Red Bull. Have they learned something in the weeks that have just gone on in terms of being able to use the curbs? And we have 2 drivers, obviously, in each team. That's an obvious one. But with 4 cars, qualifying gap between teammates actually makes a huge difference in where we see them line up on the grid. And what we've seen over the last 12 races is there's a massive spread, not just for the kind of the big guys in the midfield teams, but especially for the front runners, with the smallest gap between teammates being the Ferraris, with Charles being on average 0.09%. So depending on the track length, that can be something between 0.07 seconds and about a tenth to behind Charles, all the way down to the guys at the bottom, where you've got Verstappen is on average 0.637% faster in qualifying than his teammate Checo. Laura, do you have any questions on your briefing?
Thank you very much. I think we consider ourselves very well briefed. Thank you so much, Ruth. I think for me, we're looking at those qualifying gaps. How tricky is that to manage in a team situation when you have a gap as big as the likes of we're seeing for Sargent, for Zhou, and for Perez as well, 0.637?
Well, it really makes a huge difference, not just in terms of, actual results, but in terms of planning as a race strategy, because you'll make different choices based on which tyres you think you want to have for Sunday, based on, how competitive you're going to be and where you're going to line up. And so for especially the teams like Williams and Sauber that are fighting for every single point, they might take a slightly different tyre approach. Now, last week in Silverstone, we saw that the Red Bull started Checo, who started from the pit lane after a poor qualifying, on that hard tyre. He didn't get very far in the race, but actually probably the information they learned on the hard tyre was critical in them actually being able to fit that hard tyre on Max Verstappen's last stint that was so effective in him chasing down Lando for that P2 position. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you'd like to have the kind of the Ferrari-style gap right at the very top. And even, Stroll, 0.11 off of Fernando, he's there in qualifying, which on a track that is a hard overtake actually can convert to points.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Ruth. We'll come back to you in just a bit over there in the pit lane. Alice, Lawrence, what did you make of that gap then? The gaps that we're seeing, Zhou, Sargent, but also Perez. And we know that so much is said about Perez and his form and indeed what he can do and what he's capable of in that Red Bull.
Yeah, clearly the car is quick, and we know Perez is quick, but he's not just delivering when it counts at the moment. And, everyone's saying his time might be up. He has signed that extension, but, as Ruth touched on, they need a teammate there. Every team does. And Perez at the moment, that's not happening for him. So how long, really, realistically, can Red Bull go on with like
I think they kind of got away with it for a little bit when they had that massive performance advantage over everyone else. But now, like we were saying earlier, you've got Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes in the mix. And if Checo isn't competing at the level, or at least within a couple of tenths of Max, then he's going to end up P8, P9, P10, getting knocked out of Q1. So I think the team, if they're serious about wanting to win the Constructors' Championship this year, and we've still got a long season ahead of us, then they are going to have to start thinking about what are they going to do about Checo, whether or not that is finding a new way to get more out of him, or it is making a change.
And we're here at another track in which qualifying is really important, overtaking somewhat limited on a tight and twisty 4.3-kilometre Hungaroring. Sergio Perez is 137 points behind Max Verstappen at the moment in the World Drivers' Championship. As Lawrence says, in the Constructors, that could make the difference, couldn't it, as things really tighten up?
Exactly. We're halfway through the season, and that is a big points gap to have after just 12 races. I know things have kind of not gone his way, but we could say the same with Max in Australia. Things have not sort of gone his way as well. So it is time for Checo to sort of pull his socks up. I actually thought when he signed that extension, I thought, okay, that's a weight off his shoulders. He knows he's going to be there next year. Yep. But actually, he's kind of gone backwards a little bit.
Yeah, it seems to have almost been that he was fighting for that contract, and then as soon as it came in, sort of at a similar point to last season, the wheels have come off somewhat, and we hope that Sergio Perez can begin to pick up that form that we know he is capable of. Do you think Red Bull have found the upgrades necessary, Lawrence, to be able to ride the curbs in a way they weren't at, say, Monaco, which has similar-ish characteristics to here?
I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to see how they go in practice, but it seems like it's something that they knew would take some time to get on top of. So it feels like it might be a little bit too soon to have the confidence to go out and say, yeah, they're going to be stronger around here. I think you talk to Max and he's still so confident in his own ability and his own talent. I think he feels like he can work around that and still go and win the thing. I think where Checo is struggling, because he's struggling so much with the car overall, has no confidence. The mechanics and the engineers are trying so many different things and they're not working. I think when the car isn't operating in the way you expect it to do, and the team would maybe trying some other things to find solutions, that's going to probably cause him more problems. And look, you said that Checo's really responded well to problems in the past when he's had these runs, but it's never gone on this long. This is quite a long time now that he's really struggled.
And I think as a driver, when you are, that far behind your teammate, and it'd be hard for anyone to go up against Max Verstappen, you lose your confidence, and I think we're just seeing Checo just really struggle. His confidence is pretty low, and it's almost, you go into this little bit of a spiral. And Lewis Hamilton touched on that he thought at times, he hadn't won for so long, George was beating him, he was thinking, have I still got it? Maybe I just haven't got it. And that's Lewis Hamilton saying that. So every driver, certainly when you go through periods of time like this, it can be so difficult.
Yeah, it's a confidence game, isn't it? And that can be so hard to get back. We'll see what happens here at the Hungaroring. We'll move on to McLaren because, look, low speed, they are looking like they could be good here. They could be on pace here. What do you make of that form here? And equally, what do you make not just of their car and what that can deliver, but also what the team can deliver, and whether now they are at the pointy end of races, now they have the chance to win, can they capitalise on that? Can they execute the race to ensure that they get over the line?
I think that word that you use, execution, is so important, because at the moment they've had those chances there and they've just not taken them. Silverstone, a prime example. Yes, okay, Lando overshot ever so slightly, went past his marks, which hinders the pit crew have got to move, and it's, those tenths add up to seconds. But they just need to start taking these opportunities, because we see that things can change quite quickly. It's a development race, not just a race sort of on the track. And things are changing quite quickly. So I think McLaren need to start looking at themselves and say, right, okay, we really need to start making these right strategy calls, because we're missing out on points. And again, the Constructors' Championship, that's points make big prizes in terms of finance.
But they just haven't really been in this position for so many years. So I imagine there's some dust that they need to shake off, because they're just not used to maybe that extra bit of pressure that comes on top of fighting for a win versus fighting for the final podium. And I think they just need to have more experiences and hopefully some more examples of them reacting well to it to give them the confidence to kind of make those decisions going forward. Whereas Red Bull have been winning for how long now? They're just so used to it.
And
they're
Mercedes.
into the routine, and Mercedes
got
as well.
A long history of that too. I agree, and actually Lando Norris does with us all as well, and he basically said it's a good position to be in where we're fighting for these wins, and it means, yes, these lows really hurt. The highs will feel a lot better when we do get them, and they will get them, they're close. But he also was very keen to labour the point to me that they have been the most consistent team over the past few months as well, and he's keen to sort of point out that should be the headline rather than the mistakes, potential mistakes, the strategy, indecision that they are making. But we're going to hear now from Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari. They've also been struggling a little bit.
I am. Obviously, looking back, the last 4 races have been very, very difficult. And especially on my side, we've been looking at it. Obviously, we went quite extreme with the setup, especially to try and cure the issues we had, especially with the bouncing that we've had recently since Barcelona, really. And on my side, I took a bit of risk going up and down with the setup to try and find a solution to it. And when it's like this, you pay the price with the results. And that's what happened in the last 4 races. However, when it's like this, you also learn a lot about it, and I think with the knowledge that we have of those issues now, I'm confident that we'll do a step forward from this weekend onward, and I hope we can confirm that on track tomorrow.
Best luck this weekend. Thanks, Charles.
We'll see what is going to happen with Ferrari. You spoke to Charles there, Lawrence. I mean, look, they've been bouncing between Imola, old spec, Spain spec, trying to find a car that really behaves well and is balanced across all different circuits. What did you deduce from his body language and the way he was talking to you about their chances this weekend?
So he's actually in a much better place than he's been in for months, basically. I talked to him in the pen after every session, every weekend, and he's gone more and more furious, irritated by just the number of things that have happened over time. And he was lost for words, actually, at Silverstone. He was like, well, I don't really know what to say anymore because there were so many things that are happening. Today, he was much brighter. I think they've made a few little tweaks to the floor that brought here to try and stop that bouncing that's really given them a world of pain. But also, I think the understanding of the upgrade, they've made some progress in that area. So hopefully, if those things come together, then they'll have a better weekend. I think Fred was pretty punchy. He was talking about they're back in the fight and they're going to be front runners here. And Fred doesn't normally do that if he's not reasonably confident about the package that they've got.
Well, that's exciting. And of course, Carlos Sainz is still looking for a seat for 2025, as well as the driver market continues to rumble on through this halfway mark of the season. Alice, earlier on, obviously, we talked about Lewis Hamilton and the scenes at Silverstone and how emotional it was and how brilliant for the team to have 2 wins on the bounce. Adversely, though, George Russell, obviously, with a DNF in that race, in which I'm sure he'd have been on the podium, wouldn't he, after that one. What do you make of Mercedes' chances here? They've looked absolutely rapid in the low-speed stuff recently.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. They've looked great in the low speed, so you could say that this should suit them. I would say going into this weekend, they're certainly in the mix. It's hot though, so they would hope that they'll have no sort of reliability issues. I mean, that goes across the board. George, he'll want to be out. I mean, he knows that he missed a chance. It wasn't his fault, obviously, but when your teammate wins, doesn't matter if he's already had a win this season, that fires you up even more. So he'll be wanting to come back out and be like, hang on a second, you know, I'm the top guy here. I'm the top Mercedes driver. So they'll both be fighting. They'll both want to fight at the front. But I think Mercedes have got a very good chance this weekend.
And they now know what's possible as well, because George Russell's win came off the back of a collision between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton's win came from strategy, making the right calls at the right time, from the pace this Mercedes has got. So now it's possible for both drivers. It's going to be an interesting battle between the two of them. The news this morning coming into the paddock is that Haas, who have extended their partnership with Ferrari just behind us here, they will say goodbye to Kevin Magnussen at the end of the season, with that second seat set to be announced soon, due to be announced. I think we know who it may be, yet to be announced anyway. Let's hear first from Kevin Magnussen.
It's been a very open conversation, very transparent. It's not, Ayao is a very honest guy, and I think that's kind of been the case with this team from the very beginning. So I think the process has been very, very good and very, very healthy, if you want, and honest at least. And I think right now still many seats available in Formula One for next year. It's all quite open, so I think the best thing to do is just to do good races, and that means you're staying in the hunt for those available seats.
Saw in the announcement that Aya was talking about there'd be a way maybe you could continue to work together, but just listening to you today, it seems like you want to keep racing. Like, how do those two things kind of dovetail together?
Well, of course, I can't be working with Haas if I'm racing in another Formula One team, but I think it's nice to hear Yao say that it shows his, I guess, he's grateful for my contribution to the team and wants to kind of hang on to it, which I'm of course open to if my situation allows it, and we'll see. I think that would be a really a positive and very natural kind of role to take, and of course it can only happen if I'm not racing in Formula One.
A lovely interview there from Kevin Magnussen, and it feels that he has an element of contentment around what he's achieved in Formula One. And also Nico Hülkenberg with wonderful words to say about him as well in their relationship and how much it's deepened over the years. And after that moment, which I'm sure you all know about, we will not go over the words that were said during that moment in the mix zone a few years ago, but very much Kevin Magnussen sort of content with where he is at the moment. Lawrence, can I come to you? Do you believe that he has anywhere else he could go within this paddock, or do you think this is the end of him in Formula One?
The end of him. God, that sounds
Formula
dramatic.
One.
No, I think
his demise. No, it's quite extreme language.
I think he's actually genuinely come to terms with whatever happens, he's going to be okay with, and I think that's important. I think he is exploring other options on the grid, but I think the reality is he accepts they are more, slim chances really, and I think he's looking at other racing activities outside the sport because he's still got that hunger to compete. So I think he's just seeing this as a new chapter rather than he's dying effectively and leaving the sport.
Yeah, I was not meant to insinuate that. But he may stay within the team, right? The team are looking at actually an option in which he can very much still be a part of what they're doing going forward.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that Ao Komatsu basically said, look, if we can find a way to work with Kevin going forward that isn't when he's in the car, it could be on the simulator as a development driver because he's got so much to give. And I think that shows how much respect they've had for him as a driver. He's been with the team for 7 years and 2 stints. So they've actually got a lot from him. He was critical really to their 5th place in 2018. That was their best ever finish in the Constructors. So I think there's a lot of respect for him. But obviously if he does that, he can't go racing. So he's got a big decision to make.
Yeah, interesting. We wish him the very best, whatever he does decide to do. That second seat, Alice, it's looking like Esteban Ocon, right? All
really?
but confirmed.
Heard that? Shocked.
How's the rumour in the paddock?
That's who it's looking like. Not been announced, obviously, yet, but it's a small paddock, isn't it?
It is a small paddock. That's very much the rumour. Alpine, obviously, with work to do after Silverstone. That was a tough weekend for them, wasn't it? Esteban Ocon with the issues, the miscommunication in qualifying. Pierre Gasly, a DNF in the race after taking that pit lane start. Where do they go from here, do you think, Lawrence?
I think they had a real good bounce when they were kind of getting the low-hanging fruit. They were shaving weight out of the car, and I think that really helped them make some progress. And they obviously had a lot of changes to the team. Flavio Briatore came in. There was a lot of change, a lot to look to the future, and I think they really benefited from that. They've kind of fallen back a little bit, but I think that's more just the fact that other teams are making steps, and that's what's been really good about Formula One this year. Is it's not about just bringing an update, it's about how much it can deliver on track, but how much you get out of it, how quickly you get out of it. And I think Alpine were maybe doing a good job, and then someone else has just done a better job, and I think that's all it is, and it's so close for that 9th, 10th, for those final points, main positions, that I don't think it's they're doing anything wrong, they're just not doing it as quick as they were earlier.
Pierre Gasly earlier on was asked pretty much outright in the press conference, who do you want to see in that second Alpine seat? And he sort of said, well, the fastest driver. I presume by that he's insinuating Carlos Sainz. I've presumed.
I would presume that if he's saying that, then Carlos Sainz is probably the fastest driver available at the moment in time. I think the team have got to decide whether or not they want to wait for Carlos to decide whether or not they want to join, or if they want to go down the young driver route. I always find it's a difficult question, isn't it, for a driver to answer about who do you want your teammate to be, because you probably don't want them to be too fast to beat
you want to be the fast. No, exactly. You want to be the fastest. You want to have that competition. But yeah, that's probably one of the toughest questions to answer as a driver.
And we look further afield at the driver market as well. We look towards VCARB too. And obviously, Liam Lawson, he's been testing in that Red Bull, hasn't he? In the wet at Silverstone, so perhaps doesn't paint the clearest picture. Isaac Hadjar also has been named by Christian Horner as a guy he's likely to see make an F1 debut. What do you make of the VCARB Red Bull driver market chat?
I think it's fascinating because Red Bull have got so many questions to answer, and we've got to look at it as the Red Bull family, so they can place any of their drivers in any of those 4 seats, Red Bull and VCARB. And at the minute, obviously, they've got Yuki Tsunoda in 1 seat, but does he go up if Checo leaves, and then does that mean they bring Liam Lawson in? I think they've got an embarrassment of riches, really. It's kind of down to Ricciardo, though, I think, to deliver and prove that he deserves to keep that seat. And then they'll have to find a solution to put Lawson somewhere else on the grid if they want to keep him in the family.
Alice, do you have any views on where drivers may end up through 2025 within that Red Bull family?
I mean, I think that Liam Lawson did a good job. I think he really impressed when he stepped in. So actually, I personally like to see Liam given the opportunity. A young driver. Hajar is another great shot. He's doing great things in Formula 2. I'm all about giving young drivers opportunities.
Bottas as well. I was going to say, speaking of young drivers, but he's definitely at the older end of drivers, although younger than me, I must say. But Valtteri Bottas, very much one of the experienced drivers on the grid. He's also looking for a seat, isn't he?
Yeah, like you said, he's at the other end of the scale, but he's got race wins under his belt, and I think that makes him an attractive prospect. I think when the teams lower down the field are looking for a driver, that kind of experience, as they're looking to grow, maybe they want to mentor another driver, there's a lot of other factors that I think come into it. And I think if you'd asked Valtteri maybe a couple of months ago how he felt about his future, he might be a bit worried that he might be losing his seat, whereas now it feels like he's got a few options on the table. There's a lot of movement going out and about around him. He feels pretty comfortable, I think, with the conversations he's had. They will continue. I'm pretty confident we're going to see Valtteri Bottas on the grid next year. I'm just not sure where yet.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how all the pieces of the puzzle fall, not least in technical staff as well. Obviously, Enrico Cardile has left Ferrari. He'll be heading to Aston Martin. Andy Cowell was also announced at Aston Martin as well, really bolstering that technical department. The rumours since Silverstone have been that Adrian Newey will also be joining Aston Martin, and we've been keeping half an eye on where Adrian Newey may end up. And one minute he's house hunting in Maranello, the next he's apparently house hunting in Oxfordshire, but that could mean he could serve any one of a number of teams here in Formula One. Alice, any thoughts on where we may see Adrian Newey end up, and will it be Aston Martin, and what impact could that have?
I mean, to have Adrian Newey on your team, look what it's done for Red Bull when he took some time, but the amount of wins and championships that they've accrued with Adrian Newey, he's just incredible. So wherever you are on the grid, and having Adrian Newey as an addition is only a good thing.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Williams, of course, they've also touted for him, and their name's been touted about in association too. Where do you see Williams this weekend, Lawrence? How do you see their form heading into this one?
Well, Alex Albon was essentially saying it's going to be a very difficult weekend for them. The track layout, the type of corners here just don't really suit this Williams. It's going to be tricky, I think, for them to make progress, and I think that's disappointing because Logan Sargent's kind of found a tiny bit of form recently. Alex has been punching as well, and the thing is, with the field so close above them, when they have that deficit to the rest of the field, it's really hard for them to make an impact.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? Ruth, Alice, your thoughts on where you think Williams will end up this weekend, and how they can step on from here if indeed it is another tough weekend?
Yeah, I think another tough weekend. I bet mirroring pretty much what Lawrence has said. They're a little bit like Alpine, haven't they? They've stepped forward in places, then they've gone back, then they've gone forward again. But it is just so competitive in that mid-pack. They'll be looking to try their best to get as close to the points and maybe have Logan right there with Alex, but I do think it's going to be a tough weekend for them.
Just a quick one to add. Williams probably been a team, actually. Haven't brought that many upgrades versus the rest of the pack, and I think they're planning some later in the year, so that's a big factor. When the teams around them are doing it, it's not like they're doing a bad job, it's just that Alex and Logan are fighting with the same sort of car that they've had for a long period of time.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you very much. Before we all melt here in the Budapest heat, let's take a look at how the rest of our weekend is shaping up here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. We will be on air building up to free practice 1 at 1:15 tomorrow. We'll then be on air at 4:45 for FP2. FP3, that's 12:15 on air for our full coverage of the third hour of running before qualifying at 3:30. That's our pre-qualifying show, and of course post-quali after that battle for pole. Then we head to race day here in Budapest. We'll be on air for our pre-race show at 2 p.m. ahead of race start at 3 p.m. Well, I mean, I think this heat is going to be very much a talking point throughout the weekend, not just for us standing here presenting to you guys, but also for the drivers, for the teams, for staying on top of hydration, for all sorts. As a driver, how tricky is this weekend going to be to navigate?
Well, you needed to have started hydrating days before, a week before. So, but they've got their trainers, they're clued up. They'll know keeping hydration is really key, trying to keep cool. I'm sure we'll see shots of some of the drivers in ice baths scattered about around the paddock. But yeah, that hydration is key, and it's a long race. It's a hot race, so it's really, really important to make sure you've got all your fluids before the race.
Does Aperol Spritz count as hydration?
For me and you, yeah. Maybe not for the drivers.
And Lawrence, you know a thing or two about ice baths. Will we see you in one again this weekend?
I was literally just thinking about when I got in an ice bath with Yuki last year in Singapore. I'd love an ice bath right now.
I
That
wouldn't
was
mind an ice
glorious.
bath,
It
to
was
be
painful
fair.
at the time, but it would be glorious.
I'd like to have an ice bath, but not on camera with all of you guys. So maybe
Just a
maybe
bungee jump instead.
Not a bungee jump either. There's a horrible rumour I'm going to do a bungee jump for the opening link of the show, and I'm just saying it on air now, and it's not happening. And Director Tom's laughing in my ear. Okay, we're going to move very swiftly on because that is not happening to our predictions for this weekend, and it's a tough one to predict.
Yeah,
Lawrence?
it is. I'm just trying to think, what am I going to say? I think McLaren, generally speaking, we've said they've scored the most points for the last couple of races. I feel like they are the ones to beat if they get everything right. So I've got to plump for an Oscar Piastri win, I think. I think he's probably going to have the edge over Lando. I feel like his upward trajectory has been pretty good. Mark Webber will be delighted, I've said that. And I think we're going to get two McLarens on the podium. That's what I think. Two McLarens on the podium and Max. That's what I think it's going to be.
Two McLarens and a Max, okay? Alice?
I think we'll have a mixture. I mean, I'd love to see Oscar win, but I'll go something different for you. I think we'll see a Mercedes win, Mercedes victory, and we'll have a McLaren and a Red Bull. Similar podium to the British Grand Prix.
Okay. I will also say a Lewis Hamilton win. I think winning becomes a habit, and I think now Lewis Hamilton's had a taste of it once again. I think he'll pick up his record-breaking 9th win here as well, like he did last time out at Silverstone. I'm going to say, yeah, Lewis Hamilton to win. I'm going to give it a Lando Max on the podium behind that. So
She basically just copied me.
Yeah. Okay. All right, but Lando P2. You'll get used to that now you're in the team. I just basically mirror what you say and sound a bit intelligent doing it. So welcome. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Alice. Big thanks to Ruth as well in the pit lane for her strategy briefing ahead of this one. It's going to be a very hot and eventful Hungarian Grand Prix. We can't wait to bring you with us all the way. We'll see you tomorrow for free practice. Bye for now.
This is the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Welcome to Hungary.
And we go racing, and immediately they're going to go wheel to wheel. Oh, he made contact!
And Oscar Piastri goes in the second place.
A track with strategy and persistence. It's so intense.
Whoa, look at that! Piastri not giving it up. Max Verstappen wins the Hungarian Grand Prix.